Hello and welcome to the Airline Weekly Lounge. I'm your host Gordon Smith and I'm joined as usual by co-host Jay Shabat. This week we're taking you right around the world as we review the big winners and losers so far from Q1 earnings season. Hi Jay, how's it going?
Okay, Gordon. What's going on? Do you have power this week?
Always a bonus, Jay, yes. A podcast without power is not much fun. So thanks again to Meghna, our very hardworking Skift Airlines reporter. I'm sure you've read her work on skift.com. She very diligently stepped in at the last minute. And I enjoyed the show last week. So yeah, she's very, very welcome to come back and join us anytime. But yeah, it was an interesting week, Jay. And a little public service announcement to all of our listeners, wherever you are in the world. Never assume that you've got all your ducks in a row when it comes to a power outage. Because my plan B was, I'll just jump onto the 5G, onto the cellular mobile phone network, and sort of tether my laptop through that way. That went down within about an hour. And then after that, you are kind of like, okay. You start thinking, okay, my laptop's got that much battery. How much has my power bank got? And then you're starting to scenario plan and everything else. So make sure you've got water in your house. Make sure you've got that sort of battery, solar-powered light, and all the rest of it. But yeah, delighted to say that we're back firing on all cylinders this week.
Well, I did just get the message in a bottle that you sent. It washed up ashore. Yeah, it was.
It's faster than the Portuguese. It's faster than the Portuguese postal system.
Yeah, it had the first quarter 2019 results.
Back in the David Neilman tap days.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, interestingly speaking about earnings there, Jay, because we are, I don't know, with the Chinese carriers reporting so late and all the other laggards, it's not quite accurate to say we're halfway through Q1 earnings season. But in terms of the huge global players of international significance, I would dare say we are probably just about past the halfway mark. So we're going to take our listeners on this episode on a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the world. First class, business class, premium economy, cargo, you decide where you're sitting. But let's kick things off on the old continent, Jay, in Europe, because anyone that read our feature story this week, it was titled Cheer in a Time of Fear, Why Lufthansa Feels So Optimistic. For anyone that missed it, Jay, why is Lufthansa feeling optimistic? Or Lufthansa Group, I should say.
Yeah, Lufthansa Group and Air France KLM as well, both reported, and that title sort of applies for both. It is both of those airlines are feeling rather optimistic, which does seem somewhat counterintuitive based on their first quarter results. The first quarter results were ugly on the face of it, at first glance. So Lufthansa Group had a negative 9% operating margin, and that includes rather robust profits from their very large cargo business and their even larger, dare I say, gigantic maintenance business. I always like to point out to them that the Lufthansa's maintenance business is even larger than Swiss Airlines. So it's just to get a sense. 2.1 billion in revenues for the maintenance unit last quarter compared to 1.5.
There's money in MRO.
Yeah, especially right now with all the a lot of tight supply for maintenance capacity. So even with profits from those two businesses, they lost a lot of money. And the Lufthansa mainline, or they like to sometimes call it Lufthansa Classic, that's the actual Lufthansa branded airline, that thing had a negative 16% operating margin. So very ugly. Air France too lost money a little bit, not quite so ugly, but negative 5% at the group level, negative 4 for Air France, negative 6 for KLM. Maintenance made some money. Transavia had some heavy losses, but the reason why you can't really put too much stock in those negative numbers, for starters, it is first quarter. First quarter is especially weak in Europe. It's weak in most markets around the world, including the U.S., but even more so in Europe. So you have that. You also had the Easter date shift, Easter holiday, which is a busy one for European airlines. That fell in first quarter last year, and this year it fell in April, second quarter. So that, in fact, I think, do I have it in front of me here? That was worth something like $80 million to Lufthansa's results. Don't quote me on the number, but it is in this week's feature story. You can double check me there. But my point here is that the Easter shift does matter. So we'll get that positive bump in Q2. And then there are, just bigger reasons why these airlines are feeling pretty optimistic about 2025. Of course, they won't, nobody's trying to gloss over the fact that we're entering an international trade war here, which will certainly have costs for the European economy. But at the same time, if you're a Lufthansa, if you're an Air France KLM, you're loving the fact that oil prices are just absolutely plummeting. Let's Google it right now. So the WTI price, if you want to use Brent, you can. That's the Europeans would rather use Brent, but it's not going to be much different. Well, here, I'll give you Brent. $59.80 right now. We're talking on Monday morning here in the States, in the New York time zone, Monday, May 5th. $57 WTI, 59.8 for Brent. So that is very much happy territory for airlines these days. So you had a situation where European airlines faced tremendous cost inflation over the past couple of years, but now we might even be looking at an inflection point where that inflationary backdrop is starting to become deflationary because of not just oil prices, and that's a big deal, but at the same time, you have the euro starting to strengthen versus the US dollar. And that is very helpful on the cost side because these airlines are purchasing a lot of what they need, including oil, but also aircraft and other items in US dollars. So that is just gave you a few reasons why they're feeling hopeful. If you look in Lufthansa's case, they also have a restructuring plan underway that's starting to yield some dividends. They also have airplanes starting to come more regularly now. Boeing is finally starting to deliver those 787s in particular that Lufthansa badly needs. We've talked about before how if there's any one airline in the world that's been hurt by Boeing's delivery delays, it might very well be Lufthansa as the number one victim there. So that's starting to be in a little bit of a better situation. They still think they'll even get their 777-9s next year, I believe. So that's been years behind, but that may even be not that far off now as well. What else can I say? Yeah, Air France has got some of their restructuring plans at KLM, for example, starting to bear some fruit. And then as far as demand goes, both of these airlines say that things are still looking really good. I mean, premium in particular, excellent, even on the North Atlantic routes. Non-North Atlantic routes seem to be doing just fine. Even cargo is doing fine, despite the international trade stuff. Now, of course, it could be that cargo, it's a little bit of a calm before the storm. A lot of companies are shipping things before some of these tariffs take effect, so we may be seeing an artificial increase now, and maybe some of these airlines, their cargo divisions will pay the price later on in the year. But yeah, I mean, all in all, the only thing that's really down is some of the U.S. airlines have said this too, that some of the price sensitive transatlantic stuff is weak, but like I think I said last week, if you tell me that, you're going to have a little bit of a weakness in the back cabin on transatlantic, but you also get to have $55, $60 oil, I'd take that trade any day of the week if I'm these airlines. So what do you think, Gordon? Are you convinced that this optimism is justified?
Well, I'm just privately delighted because I get paid in euros, Jay. Just in time for my trip to New York for the Global Forum in September.
You can buy me lunch.
I'll buy you lunch. Yeah, and you can. I'm trying to think of something you can buy me. I don't know. I'll just buy you lunch. But there's a 10% tariff on that. What about some of the other European airlines that have reported so far? If anyone's wondering what's happening with IAG, as we're recording here on the 5th of May, they are due to report on the 9th of May. So we'll have some details on that in the next issue. But that's the last of the European supergroups to report. What about Finnair, for example? Q1 is usually a challenging one for them, despite all the Santa traffic and everything else that you might expect. But they reported, I think, 9%, negative 9%, Jay, there or thereabouts.
Yeah, negative 9%. We also have Icelandair and Play. They report as well. So we've got 3 Nordic airlines. Their results, by the way, Icelandair and Play, there's what do we have? Negative 22%, negative 48%, if I have that right. So very, very bloody numbers. Again, it's Q1. It's the cold and wintry Nordic region. So let's not put too much, let's not ring any alarm bells. In Finnair's case, they are dealing with some pretty serious labor unrest, particularly with pilots. So that is another reason why, we don't want to put too much stock into the numbers for the first quarter, or even, unfortunately, that labor unrest hasn't really been resolved yet. They're still negotiating an agreement, as far as I know, unless anything happened within the last couple of days. So that's kind of a unique situation there. I think I listened to those, the Finnair call, the Icelandair call, and the Play call. I did get to listen to them. I did listen to them rather quickly. I believe they said in general kind of the same deal with demand is fine. Like they're not seeing any real distress in demand. We should have more of that in the upcoming issue of Airline Weekly. When we'll dig into some, we'll go into a little bit more detail of those, because this week's issue was so packed with so many different airlines. We held some of those back. So if you're a fan of Nordic aviation, stay tuned for
look no further.
Yeah. So we've got more on them coming. But you are right to correct. You're correct to point out that Finnair did have heavy losses in the first quarter.
Yeah. Jay, I'm just thinking from a consumer perspective here. If you, as you mentioned, transatlantic, anecdotally we're hearing of some softness, particularly in the economy cabin. If you've got the big guys going across the Atlantic and they've got some weakness in the back, they're going to lower the prices, you'd think, and fill up the seats. It's usually those ultra price sensitive consumers that are going between the US and Europe via Iceland, either on Play or to maybe a lesser extent Icelandair. They're usually the ones with some attractive prices to basically make the layover, assuming you're not stopping off and going around the Blue Lagoon, a little more tolerable. If you've got non-stops or as good as non-stops across the Atlantic without the need to mess around in Reykjavik, Keflavik, that's surely going to put a little bit of additional pressure on Icelandair and particularly on Play.
I had the very same thought, Gordon. I think we're right on the same wavelength there.
God, for once.
Yeah. If you we're great minds think alike. We're always we're always on the same wavelength. But I think your point is exactly it's a very good one. That if you tell me that sort of the lower price sensitive end of the transatlantic market is feeling the pinch, then absolutely Icelandair is kind of in the thick of that, or even Play for that matter. So I think they will be disproportionately hurt. Again, cheap oil is a nice tonic for for a lot of what ails any airline. So they may have just a larger kind of point I'll make here about all this is that I would not be surprised, as things stand right now, if it's still a pretty good summer for most airlines around the world, even in the U.S. That's a little bit of a more of a dicey statement, because some of these low-cost carriers are having trouble. But just in general, I think with oil prices so down, demand still pretty solid. I think it could be a decent summer. With what's happening in the international trade arena, I do worry that the fall could be that could be a different story. But that would be jumping ahead of ourselves. Remember, too, I didn't mention this when we talked about Air France and Lufthansa, but remember, too, we're already in May. I mean, we're talking on May 5th here. So a lot of bookings for the peak summer season are starting to come in. And that so you could already see. I mean, the one nice thing about being an airline is you can tell the future. You have a crystal ball to a certain extent because you have advanced bookings, right? You could sort of see what's coming in. And everybody says that European tourism this summer still looks good. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about Turkish today. Maybe we can, maybe say a few words about them. But
go on,
Turkish
squeeze it in.
Yeah, Turkish Airlines reported as well, and they lost money too. But it's like first quarter -2%. So that's nothing for them. First quarter, they make a ton of money typically in the summer, and they say the summer bookings are looking just fine. So we kind of already know that already. So again, back to my point, I do think it could be, barring any additional shocks. You never know. I mean, in this industry is always subject to stuff coming out of the blue. But as things stand now, like I think most airline markets could be pretty healthy this summer. It's the fall that I think is more of a concern.
All eyes on Q3. Jay, we will be crossing the Atlantic metaphorically in part 2, taking a look at North America, South America, and Asia if we have time. But before that, just a very quick reminder to send any questions or comments that you might have for us to podcasts@skift.com. That's podcasts with an S at the end. And please don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening or watching. And if you are enjoying the show, please rate us 5 stars or leave us a positive review so we can continue to spread the word about the Airline Weekly Lounge. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hello, welcome back to the Airline Weekly Lounge. I'm Gordon Smith. We are taking a whistle-stop tour around the world this week, basically filling you in on what's been happening Q1 earnings-wise. We are speaking here on the 5th of May, so we've got a good number in, not all of them in. So if you're wondering, why have you not done your favorite airline or whatever it might be, we don't have all the details yet. But this is as it stands, Jay. We've covered Europe in sort of scattering detail. Let's go across to North America now, Jay. Where do you want to start there?
Yeah, we'll start in the U.S. We have 3 airlines that reported the results last week. They're all low-cost carriers, and there was quite a contrast because let's do what do you want to do? You want to do the ugly end yet, or first, or you want to start with the good news?
Let's finish up with the beauty contest. Let's start ugly.
Okay, we'll start ugly. All right, so JetBlue on -8% for the first quarter. Now, first quarter, okay, fine. It's not super peak, but remember that in the U.S., this is not Europe. You have Florida. You have, for JetBlue, very much Florida and Caribbean. So the first quarter shouldn't be that bad. In fact, if you go back to the first quarter of 2019, JetBlue had a positive 5% operating margin. So this is an airline that is clearly distressed. It's got big problems. I think what happened, and I'll say here, Frontier was also -5, so they have their own issues. I think what happened, Frontier kind of described it well. So January was actually a pretty strong month. It was rather strong. And then what happened is in February, things suddenly started to fall apart. Like demand just started to weaken pretty significantly. And so these airlines couldn't adjust their pricing fast enough. So they wound up with like quite a few empty seats. And that kind of extended into March too. Now remember, February and March are both peak, super peak seasons for Florida and Caribbean. So when you're a carrier like JetBlue and Frontier, which have a lot of exposure to those markets, you can see why it was very difficult first quarter. Now, both of them say that bookings are still like pretty good. I mean, especially Frontier was pretty emphatic that May looks fine, even into June. June looks fine. They've adjusted their revenue management, their pricing. They do see some distress in the domestic area, especially on off-peak days, but nothing catastrophic. So it's again, with fuel prices down, maybe they will be okay. Now, JetBlue, knowing that they that they can't just go on like this without doing something pretty dramatic, has a host of reforms that they introduced last year. And the rumors now, maybe they're more than just rumors, but certainly news reports, blog posts from people in the know has JetBlue forming some sort of partnership with United. We do know that American, which was talking to JetBlue about perhaps renegotiating their old partnership that was nixed by a federal court, American basically said that it came out with an angry, would you call it angry? I don't know. It was an angry press release that says, why did you break off talks with us? We're suing you. And,
it was an open letter, or sort of a letter that started off as an internal one, but I think it was leaked, and then they said, "Hey, it's already out there. We might as well put it out on our own terms." But yeah, it was.
Is that what it was? I didn't realize. Yeah, okay, it was leaked.
It was. Well, I don't know if it was leaked, but it got out there, and the tone was disappointment. Let's say.
Yeah, and American has that history of getting things stolen, getting friends stolen from them. If you remember that Delta took LATAM away before COVID, and it would be a rather dispiriting blow to have United partner with JetBlue. But we'll see. I mean, there's no confirmation of that, so it's keep reading Airline Weekly and keep reading Skift. We'll have full coverage as it happens, but as of right now, we're talking Monday, and no hard news of that yet. But keep it in mind. So now we're going to do a little bit more. That we'll go to the how did you describe it? The more cheerful end.
I think I said beauty pageant. So
the beauty pageant, yeah. So we're going to get this. So clearly, the most beautiful airline in the margin ranking so far is Sun Country, based in Minneapolis. They had a positive 18% operating margin. So they're just living in a completely different universe. They said the same thing, that January was really good, and then February kind of got weak, and they felt that for sure. But remember, this is a very different business. It's kind of a business that sort of sits on three pillars, I like to say. You've got the scheduled passenger business, but you've also got a large charter business, and then you've got a cargo business. And Sun Country's actually allocating more of their resources to their Amazon contract, their Amazon cargo contract. So that is, something that's very unique to them. Sun Country, I mean, one of the most interesting things that they said in their call was that they have, because they're doing so well, they're financially, their balance sheet is healthy, and they are ready, willing, and able to make an acquisition if one comes along, if the right deal comes along. Now, I don't know if that would mean something exciting like buying Spirit. I don't know. It could mean, maybe buying a smaller cargo airline, or buying, a charter carrier, something like that, something that would elicit fewer, grand headlines, or, get you and Megna excited. But they and myself
and
but,
you.
Yeah. No, it's mergers are always exciting, but we don't know. I mean, Sun Country, they have the the means to do it. So keep an eye on them.
No need to go knocking on my good friend Jeff Bezos' door for any additional funds.
Right. I mean, that contract is seems to be working well for them. I should add that Mr. Bezos is also doing business with Alaska Airlines now that Alaska is the proud owner of Hawaiian Airlines. So that good Amazon Prime fund is kind of going around for everybody there, or at least two major U.S. airlines.
Okay, anyone else we've missed in... we could go into extreme detail, but we'll try and keep it top line, Jay. American minus 1.6, as we know. Southwest minus 2%. Alaska minus 3.4. Shall we slip a little south now into the sort of Mexican region? Any notable numbers there?
Volaris and Viva Aerobus, the two ultra low-cost carriers, which did extraordinarily well in the first quarter of 2024, but then lost money in the first quarter of 2025. So a huge reversal in fortune there. And that's not, I mean, it was so large that not something you can just blame on the Easter shift. I mean, that definitely had an impact, but something much grander is going on there, much more serious and worrisome is happening to these Mexican low-cost carriers. And it just seems like what it is people not traveling to the U.S. as much because of, well, you can use your imagination, but it's, I think there's a sense that if you're going to go visit your family in the U.S. or take a vacation in the U.S. and you're in Mexico, that is, maybe now is not the best time to do that. Certainly perception-wise, it doesn't feel, the United States doesn't feel like a terribly welcoming place for Mexicans, Canadians. I guess I could probably go on, but but that seems to be having a very serious impact on these two low-cost carriers.
And we heard from, in Viva's words, quote, "We observed more cautious consumer behavior across markets, particularly on off-peak days." Do you think, Jay, that we'll be seeing more carriers, even in the low fuel environment, take a leaf out of Allegiant's book and maybe say, hey, it's Tuesday in the off-season, sort of double off-peak day. Let's just keep this plane on the tarmac rather than trying to run it in an inefficient way?
Yeah, very much. And we are already seeing that, both in the U.S. and in Latin America. Now, of course, that doesn't come without a cost. I mean, Allegiant has their own way of doing things, that Sun Country has their own ways of doing what you just described in a way that doesn't have so much cost penalty. But for most of these airlines, when you start, running lower utilization, start, not offering as many flights, your unit costs are going to go up because that's the name of the game, is you want to spread your fixed costs for, you pay X amount for your aircraft and for your, your maintenance and your leases, all these things. So your airport costs, a lot of these costs are fixed. So the less you fly, the less you're going to the less revenue you're going to get for that same base of fixed cost. So your unit costs are going to go up, and you absolutely see that with go look at Q1 non-fuel unit costs for Southwest, JetBlue, Frontier, and you'll see it. You'll see that non-fuel unit cost inflation partially because of the strategy or tactic that you're describing.
Yeah, and we should say, just to correct myself in real time, I think it's more, Allegiant is sort of a byword for that sort of off-peak model, but I think that was more in the days of the Mad Dogs when they were operating the MD-80 fleet. When that was already paid down, it was so depreciated as an asset. It didn't really matter if you were keeping them on the ground Tuesday, Wednesday, as long as you were getting some activity out of them at the peak periods. Now that they've got the much newer fleet with obviously all the additional overheads that come with that, maybe even they will want to be putting the planes in the air a little bit more than they used to, Jay. Let's keep the momentum going. LATAM, they didn't just say we're keeping our guidance this year. They actually raised their full year profit guidance, sort of going against the tide of almost everybody else. Tell us what was happening at LATAM.
Right. Quite remarkable. You have all these companies around the world, not just airlines, lowering their financial guidance or, saying or giving it up entirely. Like we can't possibly say what's going to happen with all these, the world is so, the world economy is so unstable right now because of what's happening with the tariff situation. Remember United gave two separate forms of guidance. That seems to be they seem to be one of the only companies maybe the only company that's done that. I hear, I'll be listening to like random podcasts on Bloomberg, and some hedge fund manager will come on and mention that. Like United even gave like two separate funds. That seems to be a unique approach. But LATAM, yeah, like you said, they said, no, not only are we still holding to our guidance, we're actually doing better than we actually expected. Some of that is surely the cheaper fuel cost, but for them, demand within South America, they said, is still excellent. I think the Brazilian market is doing just well. Remember, LATAM is in a very dominant position in most of the markets they serve in South America, and that's including Brazil. I don't know if, dominant might not be the perfect adjective there, but they basically share that market with two other airlines, Azul and Gol. And those two airlines went through their own sort of bankruptcy bankruptcy equivalent. And they might even be merging. We might even go from three airlines to two there. So that's, if you're LATAM, you're in a very, sort of comfortable position market-wise in a lot of these places. Don't forget, too, that LATAM, while the rest of the world was suffering all this non-fuel cost inflation, LATAM was able to slash their costs in bankruptcy, renegotiate their aircraft leases, got, very, very favorable deals. So, that positive, did I say it already? But positive 17% was their Q1 operating margin, which is just outstanding. I mean, it was better than even last year when they went 14%. And Q1 is, to be fair, Q1 is more of a peak quarter down in South America, but still,
Sure.
17%, kudos to them.
I'm going to jump on board Boom Supersonic, inspired by Meghna's feature last week. If you haven't read that, go to skift.com. Meghna Maharishi, our Skift Airlines reporter, wrote a fantastic feature looking at flying taxis, eVTOLs, supersonic jets, everything in between, just basically crunching whether all the billions that have been invested will actually go anywhere. Won't give you any spoilers. You have to read the full feature to find out what her take was. But yes, let's jump in our supersonic jet, Jay, and go to Asia very, very briefly. How would you characterize the overall health of ANA and JAL coming out of Q1?
So you took me all the way from South America to Japan. I've got jet lag.
It's also tomorrow or yesterday. I can never understand.
I lost track of time here, so maybe we're Tuesday now. But either way, whatever time it is, whatever day it is, both Japanese carriers, very solid first quarter. Almost identical. They both did about 4. So Japan Airlines is 4% operating margin. All Nippon was 4.5. So basically, and again, first quarter is that's off peak for them. So they are set up to have a very nice summer, probably nice year. They're also one of these carriers that, but both of these carriers, the Japan market in general, is they will benefit probably from the U.S. dollar starting to weaken a little bit now. That should help them. Now, obviously, the very cheap yen, the very depreciated Japanese yen, has been very helpful for bringing in tourists. And that's been a nice business for these airlines, for sure, bringing in the tourists. But I think they would prefer to have a little bit of a stronger yen because that's going to help them when they buy their oil, when they buy their airplanes, etc. It's also going to probably help some of their, domestic outbound business travel. Although, a lot of their business customers are exporters. They do like the cheap yen. But I think in general, they'd be, they're happy now that the yen is getting a little bit stronger. These carriers are, this is something that they clearly have to feel nervous about. Both of these carriers are pretty exposed to the U.S. market. So, Tokyo to various U.S. cities. That's been a market that's performed very, very well for both of these airlines over the past, let's call it 2.5 years, and continues to perform well from the comments that they made, last week. So that, of course, if, trade becomes, trade starts shrinking between the U.S. and Japan. And remember, a lot of that trade is auto business, and autos are kind of on the front line of this tariff war here. That could bite into their business traffic. It could hurt the Japanese economy, which in turn hurt, the Japanese consumer, maybe fewer Japanese tourists going abroad. But it's all wait and see. I mean, everything is very, very uncertain about that right now.
Yes.
So it's, and I think I would say this for just like the entire global economy, the U.S. economy, the entire airline industry is, I would characterize it like this. So far, so good, but tons of uncertainty.
The only certainty is uncertainty, as I like to say. I'm sure somebody far more educated coined many, many years ago. Thank you for that, Jay. It was a speedy tour, but we almost made it around the world. I just wanted to say before we go, we've got the 2025 Skift Idea Awards, and these are very well established now. They're great. So if you haven't heard of them, don't worry. Just check them out because we are now open for entries, and we are inviting the boldest ideas across the airline industry. So take a look, go to live.skift.com. You'll see a nice big button there for the Skift Idea Awards. It doesn't matter whether you're transforming the passenger experience, pioneering sustainability efforts, reimagining loyalty. This is an opportunity to be recognized on the global stage. So check it out. There's quite a few categories that may be of relevance to the broader travel sector, but also some that are specific to airports and airlines and the like. So I dare say there'll be a few people listening who've had their ears twigged by that. The best thing of all, as a little reward for getting through 30 plus minutes of Jay and I speaking, is Airline Weekly subscribers get 50% off your first entry. So I've got a promo code for you. It's AW50 for you. That's FORYOU. That's AW50 FORYOU. Go to live.skift.com to get more information and to put your name in for the 2025 Idea Awards. Good luck for that, Jay. Anything to add before we wrap up?
No, that's all. I am excited to see some of those ideas that come in. I've seen some very interesting ones in years past.
Yes.
So so please, I encourage you to send your submissions.
In the meantime, though, thanks as always to Jay and to our producers, Monica, Doug, and Cole, for the podcast today. And wherever you are in the world, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye for now. Whether you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, please make sure to subscribe, rate us 5 stars, or leave us a positive review. This really helps us get the word out about the Airline Weekly Lounge, so we can continue to bring you this podcast every week, absolutely free of charge. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the Skift channel and hit the notification bell to find out whenever a new video drops.